There, this is Sky Juice coming to you live and direct. I just saw this new documentary on Netflix called Trust Me, the False Prophet. I'm telling you, it sucked me all the way in. I have to say that I am always here for a good cult. I'm here for a good cult story. This one is one of our old favorites, the Mormons. They never seem to be without some sort of ridiculous story. This one was probably the top of all of the shits that you could come from the Mormons. Basically, the premise of the story is Christine Marie, who was also part of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You remember those ads they used to have when we were younger on TV? They came on all the time. She was a part of that group, that religion. She was also under the guise of a false prophet herself that was used her. I think she married him or what have you. I'm loosely remembering the story about her life. She finally was able to escape. They did do horrific things to her and the people in her community. She finally was able to escape. She went and became educated about cults. I think she has a doctorate in psychology or what have you. She fully studied cult life, what's going on in cults. So she and her husband moved out to that area, which is that Utah, Arizona area. Established a sanctuary type, animal sanctuary place that actually is kind of like a nonprofit, I believe, where she helps folks in this community with all types of things. Now, I don't know if y'all remember Warren Jeffs. He was the one who went to jail. He was their prophet and leader. He was convicted of child sex acts or something like that. I think he got life in jail. When he went away, their community started spiraling because they didn't have any leader. I believe from what I heard, one of his sons stepped up. But whatever's going on with that situation. Long story short, a lot of the community members started losing their property because they entrusted everything to this religion and this guy, this prophet. They signed over their property to his trust and never paid property taxes and what have you. And so the government came long after he's been locked up for years, started losing their homes. So they were, some of them, many of them hopefully were able to regain their homes. A lot of these families were struggling. In comes this guy from the church named Sam Bateman. He is the story is about this gentleman. I didn't even realize, because honestly, when I went and turned it on, I didn't see a trailer, nothing. I was just chilling. I just put it on. I was like, I kind of am semi-familiar with this religion, quote unquote. Anytime I find a good cult to follow, I deep dive. I've deep dived on the Mormons and their crazy stuff. I've deep dived on the Hasidic Jews. That's a whole nother shit show. I've deep dived on many different cults and religious groups and stuff that cause chaos in people's lives. I'm here for it. So when this one popped up, I was like, oh, I'm not ready. And finally yesterday, I decided to get in. It's a 4-part series on Netflix. It was very well done. The part that made it even more intriguing is most documentaries are filming the after effects of what happened. This particular way that it was done was Christine Marie and her husband, who are not part of the sect, came in as documentarians to document this guy who had such a evolved, his ego was like, I am the prophet and I'm going to marry the Queen of England. You know, just he had this, like, they're kind of like massaging his ego to make him, oh, yes, we want to do this documentary and come in. So him and his community gained their trust. That was how they were able to infiltrate. I think that they were really kind of doing like a general documentary at first until they kind of suspected that some of this shit didn't really feel right. Long story short, it's going to be a long story. He's married, in quotes, to about 22 women. She had this, I guess you could say, like this nonprofit cottage house or little store. While these people were struggling with their homesteads, losing and stuff, she was able to say, hey, you can make your breads and your pastries and whatever little sewing things you guys do, and could sell it here at this store that I've created for you guys. You could come in and help volunteer and sell your wares and what have you. It was really like a community center for them. It was able to give some of the women specifically opportunities to hustle and make their money, right? Now, the interesting thing that I saw in the dynamics, the financial dynamics were pretty interesting, because this guy, Sam Bateman, apparently his sector of his cult was super small. It looked like it was technically only 4 families. And when we say 4 families, we mean 4 men, because they have multiple wives. Because they have multiple wives, they have a shit ton of children. The whole group was approximately 50 people. So we're talking 4 men, all their wives. I don't know how many wives they had amongst each other. He had 22 wives himself, and about 10 children from what I was told, what I read somewhere. Now, some of these wives, none of them was a legal marriage. Some of these wives were under 18. 8 of them were, I think, which was horrifying. Of course, she doesn't find this out till time is going by. Like when I say time, I think she was filming them for over a year. Not only were some of them under 18, some of them were under 25. This is like a 45-year-old man. 18 is like a legal age. Like if you're 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, you're still underdeveloped. You know what I'm saying? So the cohesion is not there in terms of decision making and stuff like that. The worst part there's so many worst parts. One of the worst parts that I found out about watching this was women in this sect they called them his name was Samuel Bateman, so they were calling them the Samuelites or something. They were giving their daughters to him to be wives. They were giving his daughters to them to be wives. What happened with these women? Sex crimes, period. What else do you do with little girls? It was so bad. The part that I really liked about it was Christina Marie, her husband was a filmmaker. She was like directing and what have you. She was kind of quirky. I liked her style and her way she carried herself. She had like cowboy hat. She wore like pink cowboy boots. There was one episode or one area where she had the whole director's costume on, like the safari hat and the vest and everything. She was kind of quirky. She was Miss Michigan at some point in her life. She's a life coach. She's a ventriloquist. She was very animated. And her husband was here for it. I felt like he was a superhero behind her to protect her and just to root, like he was her biggest fan. Once they started going and finding out, well, why does he have all these wives? What's going on? And, so she wanted to get closer. I think deep down inside, she kind of knew that there was something fishy because she had lived this same life already years ago in her younger days. So I took a bunch of notes while I was thinking about it today. They're so super random because they're literally just thoughts that started popping into my head. Oops, someone's trying to call me. They're literally thoughts that just popped in my head, and I just started jotting them down just because they were like important notes to me that came up. I'm just going to go through them because these are just like random. They're really about the story. So the interesting part, and I thought it was really key about, and this is like a now thing, right? So they're filming this documentary about this prophet, boosting him up. He actually revealed while they were in his Bentley driving along about he was the one who confessed to them about what he does with these girls. And the part that was so heartbreaking for him, and that he had to, like, it was just the most devastating thing, was he had to, God told him to give his wives, young wives, to the other men to atone for his sins. She immediately hit record on her phone. I think she might have been in the back seat or what have you. And she's like, oh, and then what happened? You know what I mean? Like she was filming, she was recording his audio. I think he felt like he was in a safe space because they were in the car. The husband didn't have his camera on. So he just wanted to, tell him like, this is what's going on with my life. I was very hurt. She was better than me in every sense of the word, because the level of horror that I felt when I heard that, how calm you have to be to fake being concerned for his welfare, that he was allowing these men to do these things to these young girls who they were quote unquote his wives, was out friggin' rageous. She immediately took her audio to the police. Like, this is because they sensed that there's just something suspicious about him having all these women around. And she knows what a good cult looks like and what they do in these groupings. She's already lived it. She just needed something. And he was basically told her what was going on. She recorded it. She went to the police. Guess what? They said that's not enough information to prove anything. There is nothing. And the guy who they filmed, who was one of the police officers, honestly, it was in the back of my mind, he must have been involved, because the skibbity crap that he talked about in terms of, my heart I can't watch that kind of thing because we all have a heart, and I don't want to really, that's not your place. So your place is when you hear something that sounds illegal, you need to go investigate it immediately. It was a no-go. It was so frustrating. She was frustrated because she's like, this guy just admitted with names of these girls who and what he did and who he did it and who he allowed to do what. He just said it right then and there. That should have been a done deal right then. This should have been an immediate investigation. They should have checked those girls and see if they had a hymen or what. Because the interesting part about her filming is we're watching it as it's being revealed to her and her husband. So they're filming along the months. So we're seeing it while she's being horrified at this moment. What they did, which I thought was really interesting, was the underage girls, they blurred their face for a moment. Then they said, we've regenerated their face to protect them. So I guess that's the new technological thing that they do now to protect the innocent, is you're still seeing faces. I actually think that's more powerful to watch the whole group of people without a blurred face. When it's a blurred face, you can't really connect to who that is. That's a person. When they put like an AI generated face, which you could kind of tell it was like a mask, because when they would move, it wouldn't move quite with them. You could tell it wasn't a real face. It did give a sense of that's a little girl. The face they put on was like a little girl's face. I don't know if that was for us psychologically, but maybe it was to show age or what have you, but they put little girls' faces on these girls' bodies. I thought that was pretty neat. Apparently, him and the other 3 men who were part of this new cult had money. They were in business doing stuff. I mentioned something about Airbnbs and property. He had 2 houses and a warehouse in the same neighborhood. The other guys, they were doing well in whatever they were doing. They had money. They weren't living like they had money except for vehicles. That's all I saw. Maybe they were buying real estate. I don't know what they were doing with their money, but they carried themselves, I guess it was their religion, raggedy. Of course, the women always has what I call the white slave costume with that Raggedy Ann doll dress that everyone wears in different colors, with the hair braided and with the cornrow going down the back, classic cult fashion, you know what I'm saying? They supposedly had a lot of money. I didn't see it. I didn't see it in appearance wise. Right? So what I was also thinking was, when you're in dire straits and he's getting wives from apparently around the area, like different states, which is why I think he was caught on human trafficking or what have you. These people are like, oh, he's good, he's paid. Like the wallet theory, like he's got the wallet. These people are out, down and out. They don't got their leader, and he's convinced them that he's a prophet. I don't know how. You have to be subpar intelligence to be convinced. Because when you start looking at this video and looking at when they're filming him and he's sitting around and the women are like surrounding him, his eyes are kind of googly. Like he's not solid. He's not a solid person. And the interesting part, the part when you saw his real weakness was when there was at some point he was taking them on down the road. Apparently, they had a trailer they were pulling. I wasn't sure if he was escaping or running or trying to hide because maybe he felt like they were after him or what have you. Someone on the highway saw hands sticking out of the trailer holding onto the trailer door like they were, and called the police, and the police pulled him over. Apparently, they didn't even close the trailer properly. The trailer doors would have flown open. These young girls, 14, 11, 12, would have fallen out of the back of the trailer down the highway. One of them apparently was holding on for dear life so that the thing wouldn't fly open. When they pulled him over and he walked up to the police, mind you, they didn't have any idea what the whole situation. This was a random traffic stop. He behaved so damn weak. He didn't know what to say. He didn't want to say his name. I was like, this is your leader? He has no gusto. He didn't come up with confidence. He looked pathetic. He looked weak as fuck, as far as I'm concerned. It's amazing how it shows that these women and these people in this organization are really, they're primitive and underdeveloped for them to go and start following this weak ass, because he couldn't even stand firm on what he was dealing with. He got very nervous. He didn't want to speak. When they were talking to the girls, and they just were programmed, little robots. They just shut up and didn't say anything except for his main chick. We call her the main chick. The main girl, we call the primary partner in polyamory. The primary partner, Naomi, said, "Let him go immediately," with all the courage and all. She was like, "No, you don't need to go nowhere." The police officer was like, "No, this is our thing here. We are taking him in, ma'am. We're going to do it the way we're going to do it." And she just had to be quiet because it just seems like these folks were just they were so out of touch with the laws of the land that their laws preceded everything else. They didn't just really know how to operate out here. So Christine and her husband, now they are the ones that contacted the police and were very diligent about, this is illegal. These kids are being abused. Do something. The police sat on this thing for months and months. I think almost a year is what went by from what I remember. Finally, I guess they contacted the FBI, which the FBI lady, she said they should have contacted her immediately. As soon as she had that audio, that's when they should have been contacted, because it was that type of offense. Anyway, the FBI finally got involved. Christine and her husband were right involved. They had the videos, the audios, the inside of the homes. The husband filmed the doorway, the entry to the door, the rooms and everything, what the driveway looked like. He got everything for them. I remember hearing someone online saying, or reading somewhere online saying, now they're profiting from this. Now they're profiting from them. Profit. They need to be paid forever for the work they did, because they made it easy for the FBI. They made it easy for the police who didn't do a damn thing, and they saved lives. These girls who have been sexually active since 9 years old, being molested and raped, essentially, are traumatized for life. The kind of therapy they're going to need forever is like, what is going to happen to these kids, these young women? Just the thought of it is crazy. Some of this I already covered. Some of these mothers that were in, when I saw some of the pictures when they were setting up some pictures to take pictures together. There were a couple women with gray hair. He had wives that had daughters that he was married to or wifed to or what have you, husband to, whatever the terminology is in their cult. So they were so wrapped up in this philosophy. Apparently what was going on was he was doing so much brainwashing. I don't know if you guys remember, we used to call it writing lines. Right? When you get in trouble at school, this is going way back. You had to write, I will not talk in class. I will not talk in class. You had to do it 50 times or 5 pages or something. That was your punishment. I guess it's some, getting it into your brain. I will not talk in class. I know I had to do that a couple times. And you have to handwrite it. Remember when people handwrite? You got to handwrite it. I will not talk in class, or I will not disrupt the classroom, or whatever it was. He had these girls doing that, and they call it their affirmations, and that it was like, I fucking love the prophet. I fucking love my man. I fucking love my king. All the fact that they were just cursing and what have you. Anyway, long story short, one of them finally started coming around Christine over at her place. Just was cleaning up the yard and was like, just, making myself busy. Julia. Christine said, she's come over here a couple times. She must want to talk. She must have something on her heart. That's what Christine's gut was saying. So what she did was she invited her inside. They were talking. Christina said Christina was brilliant in order to get this, because it's psychological, right? She told Julia her story about how she was overtaken by this prophet when she was younger, how he did this and that. She even had it in writing, like from stories that she put down, and she gave it to her to read or what have you. She says, does that sound like Sam? She said, absolutely, exactly. Julia finally opened up and cracked the code of silence. It's basically saying she feels horrible because she's responsible. 5 of her daughters are married or with this guy. One of them that I know of had a baby with him. So she is fully involved. Her husband is one of the guys who was involved in these acts with these girls. I can't even imagine. But if it wasn't for Julia having the courage, because she's probably something inside of her over a period of time, and she was raised in this cult, in this religion. Women are not educated. Women are not given a voice. They are told that the best thing in the world to do is have children. That's all you're groomed for. So when they have this indoctrination, they don't have a voice. They can't speak up. Whatever their husband says is the law. Her going against everything was her trying to fight for, she probably felt sick to her stomach about her kids, about her daughters with this man. The fact that her husband was involved intricately. Some of this I already covered. I write my notes to make sure at least make sure I don't forget anything. Anyway, so finally when the FBI got involved, they put all the pieces together and they were planning on arresting him. Tolga and Christine had him separated. Tolga said, I'm going to go interview you over here at the warehouse. The FBI came and just picked him up real soon. They just knocked on the door and said, hey, you got to come with us. They came over to the other house where all the wives were. These girls, I swore they were going to say there was going to be a shootout, because one of the young girls, like let's say 13, 14, she was like, oh, I need my AK. They're outside. I need my AK. Like, I thought they were going to start getting guns and start shooting up the place. But fortunately, Christine was like, let's just go outside. Let's find out what's going on. She just was like, and at the whole time she was working with the police. So she was really scared that they would find out that she was working with them, and that, but she just said they just didn't get that they were in danger. They just didn't get that this wasn't right. The girls thought that this was their way to heaven. They were doing the things. They had no choice. They just supposed to obey and be obedient. So she got him out at the same time when I guess the police or whoever was outside drives up. Who drives up? Child Protective Services takes the minors. Gone. And so everything starts to spiral. They place all of the girls together in some type of group home, foster home situation. Apparently, since he was locked up and he's still in communication, because I guess he has access to phones in there or what have you, he contacts them. They said all he wanted was to make sure he had money on his books, because they had like a video calling. He was still communicating with them every day. They would communicate with his family every single day. Those guys, the husbands, they kept putting money on his books. However they had their business runnings, he was not going without. Anyway, long story short, from the jail, he's telling them to get those girls out of that house. He makes them go kidnap these young minor girls, and they go on a out of state, gone. They end up finding them while the girls are in this foster care. They find out through a note left in a garbage can that Christine is the mole. Now the whole camp knows that Christine and her husband were actually the traitors that made all of this happen. And so the girls were really upset with her. They were cursing her out and all this kind of stuff. So be it. Finally, everyone's in jail. Not everyone's in jail. He's still in jail. I think a couple of the girls, they find the girls that had kidnapped him. They put them in jail. They were just holding them. The big case didn't happen. What they decided to do, which I think was a very smart thing, was they decided to separate these minor girls, because even still with all of the video of the footage and even him saying, this is what I did and this is what I did. Once they separated the younger girls, Julia's daughters were, I think, 3 of them, 2 or 3 of them, and she's talking to her young daughters that are in someone else's care. They're all separated in different places. They can all start downloading what happened and what's going on. Julia was talking to her daughter, like, were you allowed to say no? Were you given an option? Did you want to do this? How did you feel? Like, she just kind of like started pulling stuff out of her daughter. And daughter finally admitted they didn't want to do it. They were forced to do it. One by one talked to the other and the other one talked to the other. They finally started talking and saying what the hell happened. And that was what brought him the 50 year, I guess 50, he'll be dead at some point. That's what got him the 50-year sentence. Julia told her then husband at the time that, I know what's been happening. I can tell you right now, this ain't of God. You better do the right thing or else you're going to be up in that jail just like him. You better do what you got to do. But I know I got to protect my children because that's all I'm here for. So she finally got the guts to say, this is not cool. I guess it sat on his heart. He woke up and was like, so he calls down to the FBI and talks to them. He was out. He did not get locked up. He was like on house arrest for like 3 years before the real case happened. He was able to give a lot of information. He still got 25 years because he was involved in some underage stuff. His own daughters, they were having, I don't even know if I can say it out loud because it is unthinkable. It is unthinkable to have these acts to your daughters, in front of your daughters, with the mother, I was like, at what point does any of these underdeveloped, primitive-minded people think that this ain't nothing right about this? What godly books are you guys reading that give you the audacity to believe that we are atoning our sins in this fashion? I'm trying to figure it out. I just got into it. I'm looking at how much time I've been on here. I just got into it. And that's how much it took me in. I didn't mean to be as long-winded. It was really good. I really do appreciate more than anyone else, Christine and her husband. Because even though Julia was the catalyst to really start the ball rolling, it was Christine and her husband who was trusted enough. They had to go in that community. They had to hear things for a long time that didn't sit well with them. I really, really am sending hugs throughout the universe to Christine's husband for just being that guy that's like, this is bonkers. I'm here, I'm ride or die. I just really appreciate that he was invested, because remember, she's the one that had the experience. She knows these people. She's the one that has a heart for it. I was wondering what his name, Tolgas. I was like, I had to look it up. He's Turkish. He ain't about that life. I think he was a rock star. He was doing music videos. You know what I'm saying? Now you got me down here filming cults. I was just like, I just love the fact that he was there for his woman. He was supportive. He was protecting her. He was like, I'll go with him. You go with the women. They had a game plan. They saved lives. That Naomi girl, she was like the primary partner. She was locked up for the kidnapping. A few of them, because they were all like in cohesion, right? But when she came out, while she was locked up, she said it dawned on her that this ain't right. Honestly, all of the mothers that allowed their children to be involved in this bullshit, they all need to just be locked up indefinitely, to be honest. They need to go into the jail. I just feel like if you allow your children to be in danger on that level, any kind of danger, to be honest, specifically on that level where it's like mind manipulation, abuse of various kinds, psychological, physical, you need to be up under there. You need, like Orange is the New Black, you need to be up in there with these folks over here, they're both coming towards you. You know what I mean? The black group, the Latino. You remember Orange is the New Black? And I just saw a beat down in my mind, because I just found it to be really horrifying that I just feel like these girls are going to be effed up for a long time. They're going to have to find their real Jesus at some point. Anyway, I think I have done a very deep review. I don't even know if that's a review. Some of it is that actually happened, and some of it is go and look at it, because there's so many other gems that are dropped. One more gem. This is my speculation, not necessarily true, but possibly. I feel like, especially with this Mormon group, the FDLS or whatever they call them, the ones that are, because apparently at some period in time the Mormons stopped being polygamous. This other group decided that polygamy is going to continue. This is when the whole child thing. I don't know if you've seen other documentaries about them. They seem to always shun the young men. The old heads would stick around and get these young girls. That was their formula. They would make the young guys go the hell somewhere. I think Sam was one of those guys who they shunned. They didn't allow him to be in the midst. And he was like, well, I want to be like those guys over there. So that's one speculation. His upbringing was like, he wasn't allowed to be in the inner circle where these men had 100 wives. Another speculative thought that I had was this hyper-sexualized individual reminded me of another sicko, Ariel Castro. I don't know if you remember that story. The guy who kidnapped the 3 girls and kept them for 10 years in Ohio. I deep dive on that one. I read their books. I saw every video on YouTube, everything. Apparently, he was molested as a young kid back in Puerto Rico. And so then you get a sickness, something happens, right? Sam Bateman looks like that kind of guy. He might have been molested as a child or molested by a man. I'm saying molested by a man. as a child. It effed him. It effed him up. You know what I'm saying? That's why he developed this weird, and he puts on the mask of their church and the followings, and he's watching how these prophets get all the women and stuff. And he was like geeky, nerdy guy, so he didn't do it. So he got as an adult, and he's like, well, I'm gonna psychologically. That's where my head went with it. I don't know if what the truth is, but something ain't right. What they need to do with the I'm glad they went to jail. All of the men, the 4 men were all locked up indefinitely. So anyway, that's it for today, and I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. Did you watch it? Tell me what you thought, and let's stay in touch. We got to do more cults because cults are very interesting. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.